Hi everybody, it's April 8th, 2026. Living a life that is sufficiently solitary, it gives you a lot of time to kind of analyze and kind of digest your experiences and your experience in total. And you would think that being in a solitary life, that your life would be mostly empty, but it's kind of more filled with questions. It's filled with loose ends. It's filled with aspirations and needs and wants and many other things. So a solitary life isn't necessarily empty of emotion or empty of mental substance. So what I found is that in a solitary life, we have the luxury of flipping things around and turning them around and, shifting them. So, for example, if you are trying to understand why a certain relationship isn't developing the way you want it to, at first for some people, at first you're going to blame yourself. You're going to be like, I'm not being attentive enough. I'm not being loving enough. I'm not devoting myself enough. And then if it sits with you longer, you're going to start to feel a sort of resentment naturally. So you're going to start to think that that person really doesn't care for me. That person really doesn't want to commit to me. That person is not being faithful or whatever. And so after that, you start to get guilty again. And so you start to wonder, you start to question yourself, is there something wrong with me that I don't trust anybody? Is there something wrong with this world where people who want to be with each other can't be with each other? So in a solitary life, you start to flip things around. And the advantage of that is that you start to get a kind of a connection with God, in the sense that you start to see this reality for its kind of aperture that we look at it through. And so analyzing your life gives you a variety of apertures in order to kind of reach conclusions about life. And there's actually no conclusions ultimately, because we don't know the answers, because we're still on this plane. But this analytical benefit that solitary life gives you, it gives you a connection to God, kind of being closer to Him, because you start to realize that the way you look at life directly affects how you interact with it, how you determine where to go, how you determine how to treat people, how you determine how to treat yourself. So it's not really a disadvantage of having a solitary life if you know how to capitalize on the nature of it, to capitalize on the free time you have to think. So this gets me to thinking about vision. The vision that you have in life. I'll start with this. If you try to think about another world, not necessarily on another plane of spiritual existence, but another world in our universe, and how the living souls in that universe and on that planet live, how they operate. And if you look at us, we take our sight for granted. And I'm not even just talking about the ability to see in terms of being blind or not being blind, but we take sight for granted. And so you could question, like, what if sight isn't exactly a benefit or a limitation? What if there's another way of perceiving? So this gets me to thinking about the term and the concept of vision in terms of my life. So we know that what we see is not always true, or the way we interpret what we see is not always true. And so I'm not talking about literal physical sight. I'm talking about our vision. So if we try to get that concept of vision nailed down, what does it mean? How can we use it? it has a certain connection to what you pay attention to. And we are conditioned and groomed by the way that this society is, that the way this world is, to see certain things clearly, and to not see, no pun intended, but not see what is not readily trained in us to see. So when we want the truth in order to live our life more satisfactorily, what do we do in terms of vision? The key for me was finding God, because with God, I saw into myself. I saw myself as worthy. I saw myself as having the ability to accomplish things that I didn't think I could before I found them, before I found my purpose. And so what that did to my vision is it gave me a kind of a target for truth. And truth is not exactly subjective. Truth is not exactly what we look away from either, but truth is the guiding wind that we all need. And truth goes back to God. So if you are of God, if you are on God's team, if you are God's child, truth is going to liberate you, as they say in the Bible. And another thing I can say about vision is that you don't want to necessarily start to covet things that are superficially beautiful. And that's kind of an obvious thing to say, but like things that are superficially beautiful start to gain a foothold on you as you get older, because you start to think like what is apparent is what is true. And that's not always exactly the case. You know, what is apparent is not always true, because if you look at, even if you look at music, the popular artists, you know, the artists making billions of dollars, and you know, the record labels raking it in and all that stuff, even though it's not that much of a case anymore, but like the popular artists that get all the streams of attention, if you are really into music, you notice that some of the best music is made by people that more than 1,000 people don't even know, or maybe more than 1,000, but not by that much. The best music out there is not really who is more visible. It's more of who are actually get music, who actually live music and give you their honest music. So in terms of things being apparent, being true, that's not always the case. So how does that translate into using that in your life? Well, it goes back to the Bible. The Bible says you can tell the truth of a situation in so many words by the fruit it bears. Now, if something is beautiful in your life, superficially beautiful in your life, but it constantly brings you pain and anguish no matter how you come at it, then that's the fruit of it. And you know that it may be beautiful on the surface, but the fruit that it bears shows what it actually is. So that concept in the Bible I've learned is completely true. And the last thing I could say about vision is that you have to learn to accept criticism of your vision at certain points, but you have to be doggedly stalwart in protecting others from determining what your vision grows into. You have to have confidence in your own judgment in terms of your vision. Sometimes people have told me things about my vision that I did not want to accept, that I didn't want to admit to, and I found that in the course of my life that they were right. But it evolved again until I realized that initially what I thought before they gave me that information was correct too. So two things could be correct. That's the nature of life. Two different things could be correct depending on the situation, depending on how you look at it. But criticism of your vision isn't always evil, or isn't always a distraction. You have to learn to determine and be honest with yourself, and use your faith to determine whether your vision is not on an even keel or not. And then if you correct it, try to learn from that and see what the truth of the situation is. Now, if people are constantly telling you to change how you look at something, but you are completely sure that you're looking at a certain thing the certain way that you are because you have a mission, because you have a goal, because you are focused, you have to be strong enough not to be influenced. And that's just the way that life is. So I hope this helps. Thanks.